What do you think of the BMWs?
Oh man, the new BMWs. You know, I think BMW has really gone a little bit soft lately.
Turbos and
such.
such.
Turbos, they're getting away, especially when we're talking about any of the M vehicles. Now turbocharged, they're going after efficiency, maybe big horsepower numbers, stuff that sells, and kind of getting away from their I want to say motorsports roots.
Right.
So,
well, what do you think of the M2?
Oh, especially the M2.
Provided by Track Monkey Apparel.
Wow. As luck would have it, we have a BMW M2, and we're at Dominion Raceway in Fredericksburg, Virginia. What do they have? A racetrack! Ah, yeah. This is the BMW M2. And we're on Dominion Raceway. It's a racetrack where this car should belong. Just like every M vehicle that's came before it. The M3, the recent M4, and so on. There's quite a bit different about this new M2. If you're accustomed to the older vehicles, they were all naturally aspirated, super high revving, inline sixes or V8s that had motorsports pedigree and were used on track in racing programs. That's not the case with the new M2, but don't think that it's not a track performer. Frank Eisenberg, the chief engineer of the BMW M2, I think what happened is he got his hands on an M235i one day. And when everybody left the building, he grabbed the entire M3, M4 parts bin and put on the subframes from the M3 and M4. And what that really means is you get a 2.1 inch wider track in the front, 3.1 inch wider in the rear. They fitted the M3, M4's brakes, which do a fantastic job of hauling down this lighter chassis from high speeds. If it's good enough for the M3 and M4, it's good enough for this. Steering in the M2, you never feel like it's disconnected. You don't quite have that feeling that the hydraulic steering of vehicles of previous generations provided, but that's to be expected with electric steering. Truly, still in its infancy, but you have good feeling right in the center. A lot of cars have that dead spot in the middle. Not so with the M2. Can't say that for the M3 and the M4. Now the engine's a little bit different. Like we said, we're working with an M235i here. So this is essentially a heavily tweaked 235i engine, the N55. It has lots of additional cooling to keep the engine reliable and stable for track use, which is what this car is designed to do. They also added increased cooling via oiling to the turbo. So you now have a reprogrammed ECU to add a little bit more boost and add more power. Internally, the N55 was fitted with the S55's pistons, which is coming out of the M3 and M4. It also has the M3 M4's main bearing. So this engine, while it is really an N55, it is rather beefed up and is reliable, or should be reliable, for track use. On the track, the engine has plenty of grunt, lots of power all over. BMW advertises this engine at 365 horsepower, 369 foot-pounds of torque. And that torque is available at an extremely low RPM, 1400 or so, and it pulls out of corners. You don't have to be revving the piss out of this engine to get that power to get you down the straight coming out of a corner. You can be sitting there at 3,000, 4,000 RPM, and it's got enough to just take off. It is electric power steering, so in the corners you don't have quite as much feedback as you might be accustomed to with the older models, the older E46s, your E92s. And coming from an E92, which I had just disposed of not even a week ago, this does feel like a proper M car, like it or not. And like me, I was very skeptical of how this car is going to feel. Has it lost all of what makes an M car great? You know, I hear lots of stories of people that have picked up the old E92 335s and they end up swapping over the subframes and the differentials and all of the bits that make an M3 and M3. And in the end, they end up just selling that car for an M3 because you can't just easily swap the engine on those vehicles. So I was worried that's what I would get with this vehicle, the M2. But I'm happy to say that it does feel like a right M car. And in fact, it really reminds me a lot of my old BMW M3 E46. The size, the position, the sound and the feel of the turbo engine, even though the E46 M3 obviously wasn't turbo, the sounds and everything is very, very reminiscent of it. One of those questions I asked myself when selling the E92 M3 is, what could I possibly get that's going to feel just as good on the street and on the track? I think I might have found it. Listen to that. But let's face it, 99% of the time, you're not on the track, you're on the street. So when you're off the track, you put it into comfort mode. You get light steering. You get a less aggressive throttle position. So when you get on throttle, you're not getting all that power now. It's very gradual. Inside the car, we have a very nice leather steering wheel, very supple and soft. You get leather seats, carbon fiber trim, blue stitching. This has the executive package, which gives things like heated steering wheel, lane departure warning, and more. This car has the DCT transmission, which is an option, and it's been upgraded over the years. And this model has an additional cooler to keep it, well, reliable and doing everything it's supposed to do. It's very aggressive on the track, but on the street you can make it, set it into just normal drive, and it's more or less like an automatic. It is a very, very good transmission. And if you just don't want 3 pedals anymore and you don't necessarily want one of those Tiptronic boxes, this is really one of the best ways to go. Sadly, our time with the BMW M2 at Dominion Raceway is up. Fantastic facility, great track. But more about the M2. Coming from an E92 M3, I was thinking maybe BMW had lost their way. They're going with turbo engines. But I'm happy to say that this is really everything I thought it would be. It's a great performer on the track. It performs great on the street. It's comfortable. It's compact. It does everything you need in a great size. And just look at it. You got wide fenders, big tires, big brakes, M3 and M4 parts. This, I don't care if it's from a parts bin. The M2 it's something else. I think I might get one.